Zimbabwe is looking for a central bank governor after Gideon Gono stepped down as the governor of the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe on the 1st of this month. During his time in office, Zimbabwe's inflation soared some 200 million%, and currently the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe cannot function as a country's central bank should, as it's unable to play the role of lender of last resort. While a few former bankers have been suggested as potential new successors, there's still no clear frontrunner. As CCTV's Farai Mwakatuya with a look at the challenges the next governor will face.
The former boss of the Exchequer presided over Zimbabwe's most turbulent economic period. Some critics blame him for fueling inflation by printing local currency to fund government operations and dabbling in quasi-fiscal activities outside of the mandate of an ordinary central bank. Those who defend him say these were extraordinary times that called for extraordinary measures. Gono was a close confidant of President Robert Mugabe, and some say this left him vulnerable to political interference.
There's been quite involvement of politicians in the way the central bank had been run. And across the world, you will see that most effective governors, they don't take orders, especially from politicians.
The new bank governor inherits a financial sector that is in poor health. One bank has just closed its doors, while at least one other is battling to stay afloat as it faces liquidity challenges. The central bank itself does not have the funds to play its role of lender of last resort. It has also been sidelined from managing foreign currency reserves since Zimbabwe trades in multiple currencies that businesses can withdraw or deposit freely. The problems are part of a broader malaise in the entire economy, which the Reserve Bank cannot resolve by itself.
But if they wanted to run the central bank properly, they should be looking at ways of recapitalizing the central bank, but more particularly finding ways of ensuring that Zimbabwe can recapitalize itself by improving on levels of production, partly so that we can avoid having to import things we can easily produce ourselves, and partly so that we can dramatically increase the exports of the things that we can produce.
A former deputy governor, Dr. Charity Dliwayo, has been appointed in an acting capacity for 3 months. She and 2 others could take up the job, which until the Reserve Bank is capacitated, will just mainly be monitoring local banks to ensure that they meet prescribed capital adequacy levels. The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe building behind me towers over all other buildings in Harare CBD. Now, it's not yet quite clear who will take over the reins next at the central bank, but whoever it is, what is clear is that they may not wield the same influence or have the same capacity as their predecessors. Farai Mwakatuya, CCTV, Harare, Zimbabwe.
The World Bank is urging Uganda's government to be more transparent in its management of the country's natural resources, especially that of oil. The bank's vice president for Africa said such resources require proper management. Speaking in Kampala, he insisted revenues should benefit all citizens. Uganda has an estimated 3.5 billion barrels of oil reserves. The government says there has been full accountability to date and says its slice of oil revenues will go into a petroleum reserve fund that will be audited twice a year and presented to Parliament for scrutiny.
We need to make sure that this wealth will be coming from oil, from gas, from mining, from everywhere, will be translated in higher income for the poor. It will be translated in improvement of human development indicator. It will be translated by better governance. It will be translated by transparency. It will be translated by more accountability from leaders in Africa.
All right, let's go now to the markets to see what we've been tracking here for you at BizAfrica. To the early trading numbers, Nigerian All-Share Index is starting the day in the red at 0.01%. We move to the JSE, and it's posting today in the green at 0.45%. We move to the Nairobi Securities Exchange, which is, of course, closed as we continue to celebrate Kenya's 50th year of independence. And we move lastly to the EGX, which is also closed today, as today is Friday. And that's all we have for you today in business.